Welcome to the STEM Lockdown Digital School. My name is Katla Mative and I'll be presenting the grade 10 Life Sciences lesson to you. Now, welcome back to those who have been joining us since we started, and welcome our new members. So guys, remember to use the chat box or chat section if you have any questions that you'd like to ask me whilst I'm presenting, or if I am moving too fast, do tell me that, ma'am, kindly slow down. Don't use the chat box to individually chat to one another. So please guys, let's respect each other and enjoy the lesson. Now guys, today we are starting off on a new topic, and it's under the knowledge strand, life at the molecular, cellular, and tissue level. The topic will be chemistry of life. We are going to start off on inorganic compounds. Yeah. Now, at the end of the lesson, what I want you guys to do, I would like you guys to be able to define concepts that are highlighted in bold black, to distinguish between organic and inorganic compounds, to know the different types of organic compounds, to identify organic and inorganic compounds from food product labels, to understand why minerals may be classified as microelements or as macro elements. And lastly, to establish the conditions that arise in both plants and animals due to the deficiency of these elements. Remember, I told you guys to have a terminology book for each section. Now we're starting a new section. This is under Term 2 stuff. So take note of all the definitions that we will be talking about under this topic. All right, guys. So just to quickly recap, yesterday we ended off on the history of life on Earth. We finished that section. And we said that in the last 4 million years, significant changes have occurred in species occurring in Africa, including the evolution of humans. And that South Africa, as we know, is very rich in many fossils from many diverse time periods. Some of these fossils that we talked about yesterday, we mentioned the Glossopteris, which is a cone-bearing fossil plant. That plant led to the coal deposits that we see now today in South Africa. We also talked about dinosaurs that existed in the southern part of Africa, such as the Euskalosaurus. Yesterday I had a bit of a tongue twister trying to pronounce that word, but it is the Euskalosaurus, and it was found in South Africa, some in Lesotho, and other neighboring countries. There was also a discovery of a fish-like organism that is closely related to amphibians, and we mentioned that to be the coelacanth. The coelacanth is said to be a living fossil because millions of years ago, it was said to have been extinct. But then years later, there was a discovery right here in South Africa in the Sodwana Bay. And they discovered that actually the species of these organisms are actually alive and not extinct. Hence, we call them the living fossils. And we also talked about fossil tourism, which is a source of income and employment in fossil localities. Now, it doesn't mean that fossil tourism only has advantages. It also has disadvantages. but we'll get on to that because I gave you homework. I hope you guys did it and will be able to give me answers to that in a few seconds. Now, for number one, I asked you guys to give a few disadvantages accompanied with fossil tourism in South Africa. My question was quite vague because I said a few and didn't give you guys the exact number of disadvantages that I want. If you name 2, then it's still fine. That's a few. Or if you have 3 or more than 3, that's still fine. Number 2, I said name 2 fossil sites in South Africa. We touched based on those yesterday. I didn't want to mention them during our recap because I was going to give you answers. Number 3, I said name 1 fossil at each of the 2 sites that you would have named above on number 2. So guys, quickly give me answers to these questions. We have a minute, or should I say 2 minutes, to discuss all the 3 questions. So what is the answer for number 1? Give a few disadvantages accompanied with fossil tourism. Number 2, name 2 fossil sites in South Africa. Number 3, name 1 fossil found at each of the 2 sites you named above. So fossil sites and not heritage sites. Fossil sites and not heritage sites, because heritage sites comprises of fossil sites. So I want individual names of these fossil sites. So Karabo Sibutuma says, number 1, fossil tourism in South Africa destroys our land. So it means that it has a negative impact on the environment. But how does it destroy the land? Okay, so I see that you guys are still struggling with this. It means that some of you didn't do your homeworks and some are either typing out the answers. So I'm going to move on because of time. Thanks, Karabo. So fossil tourism does destroy the land, and it falls under the first bullet point where I mentioned that fossil tourism has a negative impact on the environment. For example, it causes an increase in pollution due to emissions from traveling locally and globally. There's littering, there's noise pollution, etc. And the other one, I mentioned seasonal fluctuations. By seasonal fluctuations, I mean that, yes, we said that fossil tourism creates jobs, but then they come seasonally and they do not pay that well. Okay, guys? And I came up with the other one, said it causes increased crime rates. You know that South Africa is linked with crime. So Dr. Carl R. Johnson is asking, how does it increase crime, ma'am? I don't get that one. Well, it increases crime by, as a lot of tourists come to our country, we see there is an opportunity to rob them, or even hijack them. So there have been cases reported of people who have been hijacked or affected. Okay, guys. Yes, Nelly says some people might get robbed because they are tourists. That's correct. And Letaba says people steal fossils to sell at private auctions. That's also correct. Even tourists do steal these fossils. So hence the increased crime rate. I hope I have cleared the confusion, Carl. For number 2, name fossil sites. Any two of those, we have the Sterkfontein Caves, the Swartkrans, Langebandweg, and Mzamba Petrified Forest. We talked about Sterkfontein Caves and Swartkrans. Those are found in the Cradle of Humankind. And that World Heritage Site is found in Gauteng. Now, fossils. Any of the two of the following, guys, sorry. So for Sterkfontein Caves, we have the pre-human skull, for example, the Australopithecus africanus that was found there. And for a fossil that was found in Swartkrans, it's the Paranthropus robustus. And for another one, thank you, Nelly. Yeah, Mrs. Pleasant Child. So Nelly says in Sterkfontein Caves, they found Mrs. Ples, and in Taung, which is in Northwest, they found the Taung child. Thank you. So Carl is asking if the Cradle of Humankind, if it is one of the fossil sites. It's actually a heritage site consisting of all these fossil sites. Now, in Langebandweg, we found that they discovered the first bear in South Africa. And for the last one, an ammonite was found in Mzamba, that is in KwaZulu-Natal. I hope you guys wrote that down. Now, to focus on today's topic, we are going to talk about the chemistry of life on Earth. And we all know that matter is made up of living and non-living materials or building blocks. So matter is made up of living and non-living materials, which are made up of tiny building blocks called atoms. You guys did that in your natural sciences class. Tyrese is asking what an ammonite is. If you can check our YouTube channel at Africa Tin Gigs, we talked about the fossils that were found in South Africa last week. So if you can check the history of life on Earth in your textbook, they do mention an ammonite. So an ammonite is a fossil. For those who cannot hear me properly, please raise your hands. And it might be your connection or my connection this side. Apologies for that. There's nothing we can do about that. So an atom is the smallest particle of an element. And atoms of elements such as oxygen, hydrogen, and carbon combine to form molecules such as water, glucose, and carbon dioxide. So these molecules are known as compounds. So in living organisms, molecules combine in a specific way to form organelles and other cell structures, which form components of a cell. Now you can see all the words that are highlighted in bold black. Those are terms that are important in this section. You guys can write them down and their definitions. You might be asked in a test or an exam to define one of these terms. Now, because we said we have compounds, there are two types of compounds that we have, and those are the inorganic compounds and organic compounds. So what are inorganic compounds? Inorganic compounds do not contain the element carbon-12. And some examples of these are your water, minerals, and gases like carbon dioxide. Now I know you guys will ask, but ma'am, carbon dioxide contains the element carbon. Yes, this gas is an exception for inorganic compounds. It is the only gas that is an exception. So under organic compounds, we have, these are elements that contain carbon-12. And those are your carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. So the difference between inorganic compounds and organic compounds is that with inorganic compounds, they do not contain the element carbon, and organic compounds contain that element carbon. All right. So examples of these compounds are, so looking at this example here, you guys are familiar with it. So these are examples from our everyday lives. Nah? So this is an example of an inorganic compound, which is table salt. The chemical name for that, it's sodium chloride. Yes, Tyrese, it's NaCl, sodium chloride. This is an example of an inorganic compound because it doesn't contain the element carbon. And an example of an organic compound, it's vegetable oils, like your olive oils, your canola oil, etc. Those are your fats and lipids. All right. So under inorganic compounds, we also have minerals. So minerals are inorganic substances that are required by living organisms. And these living organisms are plants and animals. So Ms. P is asking what we are doing today. We are doing the chemistry of life, which is in most textbooks, chapter 1, the chemistry of life. We are focusing on inorganic compounds today. Minerals, these minerals can be divided into two groups, which are your microelements and macroelements. So we know that microelements, from the word micro, it means small. So microelements are just elements which are required in small quantities. And macroelements are elements which are required in large quantities. Take note, they are in bold black. So guys, those are important. Those are important terms. Now, just to quickly look at a nutrition fact table, you guys know that we find this at the back of each and every product that we buy in stores. It gives us nutritional information about that package. So here, I don't know if my mouse can show you guys the cursor there on the screen. If you see it, please do tell me. So we have proteins. This is the juice that we normally drink. We normally drink this juice. All right, thanks, Tyrese. I see that you guys can see this cursor. So for this juice, we know that the nutritional information there, it has energy, proteins, glycemic carbohydrates, total fat, dietary fiber, total sodium, and your vitamins. These are vitamin A, C, and E. So we said organic compounds, examples of organic compounds are your carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, fats, etc. So we see here proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and fiber. Those fall under organic compounds on this nutritional information for the juice series. And then there's total sodium. Total sodium is an example of inorganic compound because it doesn't contain the element carbon. And we have vitamins, vitamin A, C, and E. Those are examples of organic compounds also. So this is how you read off your nutrition fact table. So you know that, okay, it comprises of organic compounds and also inorganic compounds. So we can be the smart kids in the room when we are with our mates who are not doing life sciences or even science or do not know this. You can teach them a thing or two. All right, guys. Now, functions of some minerals and their deficiency diseases. Functions of some minerals and their deficiency diseases. Minerals are types of inorganic compounds. So we have sodium. Sodium, we are going to talk about all these minerals and their functions and the deficiency they have or they cause in both plants and animals. Now, starting off with sodium, guys, this is important for your test and exam. You might be asked a question to give the deficiency sodium causes in plants, or to give the function of sodium in animals or any other minerals that we're going to cover. All right. Yes, animals include humans. So Carl is asking if animals include humans. They do include humans. We are animals. Now for sodium, the mineral sodium. In plants, it maintains osmotic balance. Osmotic balance, what is osmosis? If any one of you has heard of osmosis, what is osmosis? And they cause or they result in the reduced plant growth. Nelly's asking what is osmotic balance. So I asked what osmosis is. And I'll tell you now what osmotic balance is. Just give me the definition of osmosis. So Avella says, osmosis is the movement of water molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration. You guys did that in grade 8 and grade 9, I think. Yeah. Now, osmotic balance, Nelly. Osmotic balance. Remember, in a cell, we might have water and solids. Solids, I may use an example of salt. So what that is, osmotic balance ensures that there's optimal concentration of electrolytes and non-electrolytes maintained in cells. So we are equalizing the concentration of these two, meaning of water and salt. They are equalized. So sodium maintains osmotic balance so that there isn't more water in plants or more nutrients in plants. So it's just neutral, okay? So there's a balance in those. So the deficiency of sodium, it leads to reduced plant growth. Now in animals, the function of sodium in animals, it has a role in the functioning of nerves and muscles, a role in the functioning of nerves and muscles, and it regulates the secretion of HCl in the stomach. The secretion of HCl in the stomach. HCl is hydrochloric acid. Now the deficiency in sodium in animals is muscle cramps. So if you have a muscle cramp, sometimes it's due to the deficiency in sodium levels in the body, all right? Now moving on to potassium. So potassium in plant, it is needed for photosynthesis. It is also needed for protein synthesis. For protein synthesis, activation of the plant, and to regulate the stomata. To regulate the stomata. So the deficiency in potassium in plants leads to lower drought resistance and excessive water loss disease. Excessive water loss diseases in plants. Why is it excessive water loss diseases? Because it regulates the stomata. And you know that the stomata is the openings found on your leaves, right? If I am wrong, do tell me. It is found on your leaves or your stems and other organs of a plant. So if there's excessive water loss, it means that potassium is deficient in the plant. So what they mean by protein synthesis, which leads to the activation of plant enzymes. You know that enzymes are proteins. I'm sorry, Miss P, if I am cutting, it's most probably my network. Please forgive me for that. Now, protein synthesis, the production of proteins in plants. So potassium in animals, it regulates blood pressure, nerve functions, muscle control, and cellular respiration. And the deficiency in this mineral in animals, it leads to low oxygen levels, muscular cramps, lung failure, and lung failure. So if we ask you in a test to give minerals that have the same or similar deficient diseases or that lead to muscle cramps, name 2 minerals that lead to muscle cramps when they are deficient. In animals, you will say it is your potassium and sodium. So that's how we ask these questions. So low oxygen levels, this is due to what? The regulation of blood pressure, cellular respiration. Are you guys fine? Now we're going to focus on the mineral. Miss P is asking, when I say animals, do I include humans? Yes, I do include humans. We are animals. So the mineral calcium, in plants, it is used for the formation of the middle lamella of the cell walls, and it also maintains the permeability of cell walls. Now, the deficiency in calcium leads to poor plant growth, and some of the growing parts of the plant die due to the deficiency of calcium. And function in animals, it is required for bone and teeth formation, and it is also used in blood clotting. So in children, it causes rickets. So Tyrese is asking what permeability is. We said that in plants, calcium maintains the permeability of cell walls. So what is permeable? It means the cell wall, anything can go in or out of cell walls. So permeable means to pass through. So it maintains the permeability of cell walls, meaning that it maintains the passing through of gases or liquids through the cell walls, because cell walls differ. They can be permeable to certain things and not permeable to other things. So they are permeable to gases and might be not permeable to liquids. All right, so the passing through of things, they are able to pass through. So in animals, we said that it is required for bone and teeth formation, and it is also used in blood clotting. Now, the deficiency can cause rickets in children. Now, the mineral phosphorus. In plants, it is needed for cell membrane formation and for the formation of nucleic acids. It is also used for the formation of ATP. It is also used for the formation of ATP. So you guys, because you're still in grade 10, you are still going to learn a lot about these as the year goes by and when you guys are going to grade 11 and grade 12. So ATP is adenosine triphosphate. It is an organic compound that provides energy to drive many processes in living organisms. So the deficiency of phosphorus in plants leads to the leaves falling off prematurely, and brown spots develop on the leaves due to this deficiency in phosphorus. Guys, we have 15 minutes left, so let me quickly read through this fast. Now, phosphorus in animals, it is used for the formation of cell membranes, nucleic acid, ATP, and your bones and your teeth. So the deficiency also causes rickets in children. So it's similar to calcium. Now the mineral iron. So iron in plants is used for the formation of chlorophyll. And the deficiency of iron, it leads to your leaves becoming yellow due to the process called chlorosis. So chlorosis is a process where leaves become yellow due to the lack of chlorophyll. You know that chlorophyll, that green pigment in leaves. Green pigment in leaves or in plants. So iron in animals is used for the formation of hemoglobin. What is hemoglobin? It is used for the formation of hemoglobin, and the deficiency leads to anemia. So by anemia, anemia is a medical condition whereby a person does not have enough red blood cells in their blood. So you lack iron. I'm sure some of you have heard of that. So hemoglobin is the red protein responsible for transporting oxygen in the blood. The red protein responsible for transporting oxygen in the blood, right? Now the mineral iodine. In plants, it is used in photosynthesis, and the deficiency of iodine in plants leads to photosynthesis decreasing, causing a decrease in the growth and then the death of the plant. And in animals, it is used in the formation of thyroxine. The deficiency of iodine then causes an enlargement of the thyroid gland. This causes the disease called goiter. It causes the disease called goiter, that is in animals. Now, nitrogen. Nitrogen in plants, it is used for the formation of amino acids, nucleic acids, and chlorophyll. The deficiency then causes chlorosis. And in animals, it is required for protein synthesis and nucleic acid. And the deficiency causes kwashiorkor in children. You know what kwashiorkor is? It's a medical condition, right, guys? Whereby the diet is low. It is malnutrition, actually. The diet is low in proteins. I see a lot of yeses. Sure, guys. So kwashiorkor in children, this is a type of malnutrition, which is due to the diet being low in proteins. And the mineral magnesium in plants, it is used to make the central atom of chlorophyll molecule. So the deficiency then leads to chlorosis. So you guys can see that if a certain mineral is used to make chlorophyll, then the deficiency will be chlorosis, because chlorophyll will not be made sufficiently, then the plant will become yellow in pigment. Okay, so magnesium in animals is used for bone and teeth formation and for the nerve and muscle function. The deficiency thereof is muscle cramps. Now, these are examples of deficiency diseases. We said kwashiorkor. So in children, normally they have a bloated stomach. This is a normal child, and this is the child affected with kwashiorkor. We see the stomach is bloated, and you can see the structure of the head. Their limbs are so thin. So there's a huge difference from a normal person and the one with kwashiorkor due to a diet low in proteins. And this is an example of rickets, the one in the middle. The children have soft bones, or weak bones rather. It results in weak bones or soft bones, hence you see their legs are open there, wide open. Some need balancing of the legs, so you'll see that those structures that doctors use to straighten the legs. And this is chlorosis. Chlorosis, as you can see, these leaves here, they are green in color, and this one, it's yellow. So it's due to chlorosis. It means that we have a deficiency of phosphorus, for instance. Okay. Now, homework for you guys. This is your homework for the long weekend. Explain what is meant by osmosis and protein synthesis. Number 2, describe chlorophyll, hemoglobin, and amino acids. So Ms. P is asking if animals get kwashiorkor. I'll answer you. Let me just quickly read through this first. Number 3, explain why chlorosis occurs when there is an iron and nitrogen deficiency. Number 4, name the gland that secretes thyroxine. Okay, so Animals, remember, animals can be herbivores, carnivores, or omnivores. So it will depend on the type of animal. If animals do have, um, if they eat a diet with proteins, so some might get that. But remember that some of our animals are herbivores and some are carnivores, okay? So the takeaway message is that cells are made up of organic and inorganic molecules, which in turn are made up of atoms bonded together. Essential compounds are those that a living organism cannot build itself from other molecules, but must obtain from the environment. Like us, we eat certain food so that we can get these compounds. These essential compounds are classified into two. Those are our organic compounds and inorganic compounds. So living organisms need to consume organic and inorganic compounds, which they then break down for energy and use as building blocks for the components of life. That is our takeaway message, all on inorganic compounds and the introduction of the chemistry of life. So some of the helpful links that I used or browsed through, these are the links. You guys can do that also. And in our next lesson, we'll be continuing with inorganic compounds. And if we finish faster, we will start off on organic compounds. Now, guys, do not forget to follow us on all social media platforms at Africa 10 Gigs. And thank you for tuning in the lesson for the STEM Lockdown Digital School. Thank you very much, guys, for your participation, and enjoy the rest of your long weekend. Okay, because you guys are home, enjoy your long weekend because you are at school now. Bye. See you next